Three, two, one. Hey, I'm here with Justin Wilson. Of course, I've been kidnapping all these awesome Walkaway people and asking them to interview, and because I want to connect with them. And I saw his awesome Walkaway video a while ago, and I reached out, and he reached back. So, hey, Justin, how are you?
Cool. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good. All right. So I'm gonna start what I asked everybody. First question. How long were you on the Democratic plantation? If you
Well,
were, or were you ever on the Democratic plantation?
I guess I was more democratic or sympathetic towards the democratic ideals and so on. But um, I left, I would say, w- or just ran away or from the Democratic Party when I discovered Pizzagate, when I
Oh,
looked up
wow.
into and once I saw that, it wasn't about just like politics or um, liking personalities. It was like something extremely serious. So that's when I saw, the Democratic Party as something more than just politics, or personality. Um, I saw it as depravity, people going towards a direction that was just extremely like evil. Um, so like the whole LGBT agenda to me just seemed like they were heading towards a direction of legalizing pedophilia because they just could not hide, or not could not hide. They didn't want to hide that kind of disgusting evil because I feel like they were doing it in the dark.
Would you say that? Do you think that pedophilia and LGBTQ are the same thing?
No, but I think they're trying to progress or trying to
They're trying
make
to
it.
add that on. So I just
Yeah,
okay. So I just want to make it sure that you're. I just want to see what your opinions are. You're not saying just if you're gay then you're a pedophile, but you're just saying that they're trying to add it on to the.
well, I mean, it's a natural progression considering the fact that, that's the vehicle that they see sexuality, has to progress from. So, of course, if you accept a gay in their minds, that therefore you have to go towards other sexual, um, I guess, lands or places to explore.
Well, I
And
mean, there are a lot of heterosexual pedophiles, though. That's why I wanted. You know what I
that, yeah,
mean?
yeah,
I
that's
know
very true.
I know a lot of heterosexual. I just don't collapse the two. I think they're completely different.
Hmm.
But you're saying there. I think there is an agenda though. I think there is an agenda for trying to confuse us about our sexuality and trying
Hmm.
to like I don't like the trans stuff that they're teaching kids and trying to sexualize kids at an early age.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but go on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So you were so I interrupt. You were talking about Pizzagate, and you saw that, and you saw they're trying to normalize pedophilia.
Yeah, so I saw that once I was convinced by, the connections of Pizzagate and, politicians, and it just seemed so blatant with, especially with creepy Joe Biden,
Yeah,
the emails, the Podesta's artwork, the things that they actually
that was
enjoy or they
crazy.
keep in their house. I thought it was just so clear, and then also their connection to, um, the satanic, um, I guess, traditions or like Molech worship, all those things
Yeah.
was just, I mean, it was just something that was just a whole nother thing where I saw, okay, well, the Republican Party was supposed to be a party of, Christianity in some sense, or Christian values. Um, and the only thing you could, or not the only thing, but as far as um, the philosophy of the Republican Party made more sense. The problem is that you're just going to have hypocrites in the party, and that's what people point out as far as the Republican Party. It's just you have hypocrites.
Yeah.
At least with this party, the Democratic Party. Not saying that everyone in it is trying to lead towards pedophilia, but if you're like friendly towards Satanism, then it makes sense that you're being consistent with the lifestyle that would lead to pedophilia. So that's that's what really like shocked me and made me like think more deeply into this because politics not only has a connection to religion, but also um, towards sexuality and a lot of other things. So that's what made me get into it more.
So Pizzagate, that's interesting. What am I gonna say? I think that shit. I lost my train of thought. We're talking about Pizzagate. Well, I would also say you do some more digging too. It really is. It's not it. From my research too, it's not like a partisan thing because there are a lot of Republicans that are involved in that stuff too. It's more of a high level elite thing. But have you ever seen? This will blow your mind if you haven't seen it, but you need to see this if you haven't seen it. It's an old interview. Cathy O'Brien, have you seen that?
No, recall. Maybe I have, but tell me about it.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to be a big old spoiler alert, but basically, have you ever done any research? Because I think when you go down that Pizzagate rabbit hole, the further down the rabbit hole you go, you start going into MkUltra and all that stuff. Do you know about that?
A little bit, but I didn't want to get too deep into that.
No, dude, you got to. You open up the can of worms. You better jump in. I know it sounds bizarre. Well, there is on record. There's a Operation Paperclip. You know what that was, right?
Tell me about it.
So during World War II, the Nazis were at a really high peak of power technologically, every area, right, of civilization. And they had the top-notch scientists in the world that were doing all these medical experiments on inventing, objects and also psychological experimentation. And one of the things that they were working on was mind control. So after the war, a lot of, they captured a lot of the scientists and their research, and a lot of the world was vying for their scientists. They had different countries that wanted them. Russia got some of them. A few other places got some, but the U.S. got most of them, and it was called Operation Paperclip. You can look. This is even on Wikipedia. This has been declassified as something that they took these scientists over to America to further their research. So they shelter them, they house them, and in efforts to gain their research, and they keep them working on whatever they were working on so we can have it for our military or our intelligence agencies can have their research. Does that make sense? Yeah. So with the mind control, they were able to create mind control slaves. And what they would do is anybody that's experienced really intense drama, a lot of them, their personality split, right? Have you ever read about that, like psychologically? So they found a way to induce people into having split personalities and then kind of programming those personalities and controlling them through the mind control stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a long story, so I'm not going to say the whole thing. But anyway, Cathy O'Brien is a whistleblower, and she was one of those subjects. So she talks about, and that does tie into the pedophilia and the Satanism and all that stuff. Watch it, look up the CIA stuff, determine if we weren't there, right? But there's Arizona Wilder, there's Aaron McCollum, these people that have come out as whistleblowers that have been talking about their experiences as these subjects of mind control from the scientists and their families that were in the U.S. Determine if they're true or not. I think you'd find it interesting, and it adds another level to the Pizzagate stuff. Well, you'll be entertained. You'll be entertained. I honestly would say, because I don't know if you know about my background, but my friend's on hiatus right now. But I started this channel with my best friend, and our awakening through all this, all the lies and stuff, had to do with the corruption of the pharmaceutical industry. So getting to Pizzagate and the pedophilia and all this stuff, that was kind of one of the last rabbit holes I went down, because it was too devastating for me to believe, But it's earth shattering. It's devastating. I was depressed, and I actually was going through a phase before that where I wasn't sure about God and everything, and that kind of made me believe in. That was one of the things that started making me believe in God again, because I'm like, if there's evil out there that is this evil, there has to be something good. And I kind of was in that phase where it was like, oh, there's no evil. It's only relative. No, that's some bullshit. Yeah. There's evil.
And the thing about Pizzagate that really got me was that I think it's the most important subject in the world. Like child trafficking or just hurting an innocent child would be the most evil thing you can do. It's like second to killing Jesus over and over and over
Yeah.
because I mean kids, I mean
They're
they're
so
innocent.
innocent. Yeah.
They have hope. They think about playing outside. They laugh when you throw a
Yeah.
ball at them, and
That's the best
you know
sound, man. Children laughing. It's one of the best sounds ever.
yeah,
I think.
and
Yeah.
just it's pure innocence because they just come from a place of, I guess, nothing. Like they don't have a stored up, cynicism and all that. So, the idea of hurting a child, and then not only that, but hurting thousands and millions of them, like around the world. I mean, this should be, on the news like every single day. How we're just constantly attacking these traffickers. So, once I started thinking about that and realized, wait, like all these other things are they're just smoke screens, talking about Russia, them, hacking, maybe
Yeah.
just having Facebook ads. That's not important. I mean, who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
there's
It's ridiculous.
other stories about how someone was offended by racism or microaggressions from a white guy and so on. I'm like, who cares?
I
mean,
know, really. I like my mom and my mom went through Jim Crow. My dad, he lived in Colorado, so they didn't have legal laws, but they both still experience like real racism, And they hear about this stuff and they're just like, "What? Are you kidding me?" You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, it's really nothing. And then on top of that, what led me further away from the Democratic Party is when I started seeing, the groupthink online, how people started thinking, like one way. So, because of what Donald Trump, his strong, unusual rhetoric. I mean, it's unusual for politicians on TV to say the things he said. I mean, amongst us on the ground, we say what he says all the time. But when he started saying those things, I found myself having to like just, I guess, defend what he had to defend him because people would just overreact. They would say, "Oh, that's so racist." I'm like, but you said that, like you said something just like that the other day. How are you saying this guy racist? It's not really racist.
Yeah. But no, I'm writing notes because I'm trying to, after this conversation we're having, I'm gonna put these links in the bottom so people can also look it up. But there's this. So I just want to interrupt because there's a skit that I found. There's a really good comedy troupe called We the Internet, and they make little skits. And they did a whole skit just based on this guy that wasn't even like a Trump supporter, but he was just like, "Oh, I'm just saying the facts," and people were like, "You're a racist. You're a, you're a this, you're a that." And you're just like, "Dang!" And that's kind of what turned me too, because I was apathetic. I voted for Obama. Last time I voted was for Obama in 2010, and then I haven't voted since. So I was apathetic to voting. But even when I just start like talking to people, I'm like, "Why are you like tripping? Like he's not a racist." And they'd be like, "I'm blocking you forever."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
what?
I mean,
It's like black magic mind control. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding.
like when I started seeing people overreact, and I just saw this. It was just a population of fakery. I mean, people were just being extremely fake and, like fake and being virtuous of, their morality and so on. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wait,
the hypocrisy has been overwhelming,
Yeah, and
in my mind.
Being black too, and seeing all your brothers just acting extremely fake,
It's like somebody push a button, right? And they're just controlling them. It doesn't even seem real. It's so real.
Yeah.
Surreal.
The saying, a lot of brothers, black people say, "I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real." But
real dumb,
real
stupid.
Maybe the fakest people in the world, because like the moment you mention slavery, racism, and so on, they just get mind controlled.
It's a trigger, really.
It's a trigger.
You know what? Go into mind control. That would explain a lot of that. I'm serious. I'm sorry. I'm going to tangent, but yeah. I mean, we're joking, but there is actually some truth to what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. I mean, I can sense it. When you watch a movie and so on, you're storing, all these associations in your mind
Mm-hmm.
to, words and ideals. So of course, when someone says slavery, you think of like 1,000, movies of slavery or whatever,
Yeah.
and it
Why do
may
you think they
impede.
have one to come out every year? I've been having like this thing, Holocaust movies and slavery movies. Like they put that in there because I think it was 12 Years a Slave. That was the last movie I saw. But you know what? I'm never seeing any more of these movies again. I don't see Holocaust movies. I don't see any of those movies because they're traumatizing. Well,
Mhm.
no matter even what race, even if you're like, even when I would see Holocaust movies with Jewish people getting like, I'm like, oh, I can't. Like, I would have nightmares. It's terrible. But now, especially seeing how people are reacting to slavery and Hitler and stuff, I feel like they've been slowly mind controlling us to be in that state of fear and to stay stuck in the past so we don't like advance consciously. It's like a conscious lock on our consciousness,
Yeah, but then on top of that, even though those things were reality, so it wouldn't be you know wrong to
But
actually
we're having
get
it
the point.
over and over and over and over and over again. So we're not, it's not bad to mention those things, but to have us in that constant state of trauma, it's like stabbing somebody and not letting the wound heal, and you just keep stabbing it and stabbing it, or you just keep putting salt in it so it doesn't.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm.
yeah.
That's what makes it
But,
unconscious. You
but
know?
what I see is the fact that they were very selective. They only pick Hitler. The Hitler movies are the only ones that make it.
Yeah.
There's several Hitlers around the world.
Yeah,
And
Mussolini
we have
and
you
yeah,
know
Stalin
of
and
different
Mao and
races.
Pol Pot.
Yeah, but you don't see movies about that. You don't, because we don't want to encourage hate towards those kinds of people. We don't want to encourage hate towards Muslims, even though there are many atrocities that we don't have
Yeah.
any 12 years a slave under Muhammad type of thing, because
Yeah, yeah. 12,000 years. That would be like 12,000 years a slave. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, but you know what? Also, better yet, we don't want to encourage and let people know that this is the condition of the human condition to enslave and genocide people, and it's not a condition of a white man. So, right, then they can wield it. And now this narrative, because people have seen all those Holocaust movies and they've seen how Hitler bad and how there's like the Godwin's law that compares, where it's saying that, you get into an argument, eventually escalates and you end up calling somebody a Nazi. It's like, it's easier for them to put that narrative that Trump is a Nazi, and this is the worst possible thing that can ever happen to us is being controlled and taken over by a Nazi and his regime. Yet, while the people that are pushing the story are actually becoming what they're projecting,
yeah. What's so funny? Last night I was just commenting on somebody's Facebook, and they were trying to make a connection between or a comparison between the Christians who are supporting Trump versus the Christians that was supporting Hitler, and they were saying that what was happening was that the Christians, they were trying to run away from left-wing politics and socialism and communism, so therefore they supported Hitler. And then I was like, wait, no, actually that's not what
no,
happened.
but
Like
they were
Hitler was,
Nazis, the socialists.
yeah,
They were not.
Nazis was actually left wing because of the things they believed. They believed in eugenics. They actually, took Hitler got his inspiration for concentration camps from Margaret Sanger. And then I, went down the list. I was like, look, socialism is actually still supported by the left. Communism is still supported by the left.
Planned
These are
Parenthood, eugenics, vehemently supported by the left.
still, and then also what they do now, they want to change the definition of fascism to just mean someone who's authoritarian, who's or very mean, or who uses power too much. But the original word fascism, which actually comes from Giovanni Gentili, he already had his own definition for it. Basically it was just fascism was just basically this the philosophy of collectivism with the state, just treating the state as a family, and if anyone I guess think outside or do something outside the family, they should be discouraged or looked down upon. You just treat them as though they're not part of you, and that's why, of course, people who support socialism always have this idea that we're this one big family, and taxing each other is not stealing, because you're not stealing from, like, if you're married and you have kids, you don't see yourself stealing from your wife if you take something from hers, because you're a part of a family. But he was against individualism because individualism seems selfish. So being part of a family seemed more selfless. And when you think like an individual, then you are being selfish. So that needs to be wiped out. You need to cut that kind of thinking out of your mind. And if anyone of course was independent of the group, then they have to be persecuted, because they're not allowing us to evolve as a great family of supermen.
Yeah.
So then I gave that response. I did not insult the person. The guy blocked me. Like he blocked me because he thought I was not well read. I was like, he said, "Oh, well, what was the last World War II book you read?" I was like, I haven't read a book in World War II book in years, but this information is online. And they have this snobby, some people have this snobby, thing about reading things online, as though books, there's this magical threshold between books and things online.
Yeah.
One is less trustworthy than the other.
Yeah.
Who made that, that law?
Stupid people who don't have another argument to who can't debate or argue with you, so they have to cut down your source.
Sure.
It's like a form of ad hominem attack, where they're just like, well, you need to read a book. I read books. I'm better than you, and I'm going to heaven and you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's
it. So, but yeah, I started seeing that thinking more and more on the left, and it's becoming very old.
It's getting boring.
Yeah, and little by little, I start to feel sorry for them in a sense. This may sound condescending, but I feel like there's simple logic or information I can just say to a person. But I know if I say it, it's going to hurt them because they're very sensitive. When you have a bad argument, you're very vulnerable to to getting your feelings hurt, because you have nothing else.
But you know what? They'll get over it.
That's
this is why too, because I'm sick of it. I'm getting I'm reaching my threshold with these people that are grown ass people that are that are fragile 5-year-olds. They didn't have any adversity in their life, and they haven't learned to work that muscle, and their development has been arrested because of it, the participation trophy generation, but I've run into people that are older than me that still have that mentality, but they'll get over it. I'm not physically hurting them. If they're traumatized, it's their issue, I saw, do you ever watch Steven Crowder?
Yeah.
Did you see the latest one he did? Rape culture is a myth. Changed my mind.
I seen it on my feed, but I didn't click on it yet.
So there was a lady that came and she was talking about how she was raped, and he was like, I'm really sorry, but it has nothing to do with it being a rape culture. So she went down and she started yelling at him, and then she started crying and stuff, and she called the police, and she's like, how could he be over here? Well, I mean, not call the police, but they were around. She ushered them over, right? And then, or they came over, and she's like, why is he doing this to me? And they're like, you could leave if you want to. Nobody told you to come over here to this table. You know what I mean? And it's just how this is an adult. She's a college kid, but still technically an adult. But it's that attitude where it's just she ended up looking like an idiot. And maybe she was raped. Sorry about that, but doesn't mean that because you're a rape, you're a good person. There are people that want to use their traumatic experience too and hold them over your head like a moral, like an halo. well, they can still be assholes in life, but they can be like, they could be raped, they could be really dying of cancer, but it doesn't mean they're good people. They're doing good things because of it, but they like to let other people know they are. I'm sorry, I tangented again.
No, it's all good. No, yeah, people, this disease of entitlement, it's very annoying. I mean, and everyone should kind of sympathize with Republicans in this sense, where we shouldn't like have this attitude of entitlement just because we're born. Like every parent, who eventually has an adult kid in their house, they start becoming more conservative when they realize, hey, this guy is taking advantage of me. This guy is actually he's able enough to actually get a job and work and do all these things. And it's even worse when that kid who's an adult, maybe 20, 25, 30, has the nerve to argue with the parents and, demand what should be done in the house. When the parent, all they have to say is, well, if you don't like it, just leave, and that's the attitude that I just see everywhere with so many people, where they feel entitled to just so much. It's just annoying. And then also this whole push towards, this push towards, I guess, this fight against the 1% attitude, where the 1% is the enemy and those are the evil ones. But like the whole United States is like 1% to the world.
Yeah.
Like we are.
I mean, I think there is a small elite group of people that run things, but just because you're rich doesn't mean you're necessarily part of them. And I think that's where, just like they have this like kind of like ideal that rich people are bad, and if they're rich, they must have gotten their money nefariously. In some cases that's true, but not in all cases. There are people that do work hard and have generational wealth and they work their butts off,
Yeah.
And a lot of these people that complain seem, in most of my experience, are very lazy. They don't work their butts off.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, thinking that poor people are bad. They got there because, or
they're stupid.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why a person become homeless as well. There's all sorts of good reasons why a person become rich.
But, exactly.
We can all be jealous of each other. And that, I mean, there's enough room for that. So, I started noticing more and more on another aspect in my life, where when I'm debating theology, there was just influences from the outside that just was changing how people think about God and how people think about church and relations with, each other. And it just didn't make sense. It just seemed so contrived. It's just, I'm like, well, how do you, how do you change Jesus according to the fashion of the day? Like, he's just all of a sudden different.
Yeah.
And I've just noticed, like for example, the recent thing about, I've heard someone try to make arguments that Jesus would, support abortion or whatever, or he would be pro-choice.
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah, so people have this idea, like they force the politics they force their politics into theology to change or make God the way, they want to see him so that they can feel better.
What was that? Like, how did they? Because even when I consider myself a liberal and a Democrat, and I supported abortion, I always had it in my head that still you're killing your child, because there are people that I think too, it makes it easier for them to be comfortable with the idea of it, because they'll say, oh, it's just a clump of cells, it's not a real person, it's just a clump of cells, and then that way they can feel like exonerated or not guilty about killing a baby. You know what I mean? Like, I have friends that have had abortions, and I don't judge them for it, because I think we've all been kind of brainwashed, right? Into the idea of it. But I lost my track. I was trying to hop on what you were saying, Jesus and stuff. Yeah, I always just like, okay, I support women's right to choose. She's still killing her baby, and that's between whatever happens with her and that. But I don't know. Like, yeah, so Jesus basically, they're saying that he's trying to be, he's okay with that now.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, see what happens is that they use the euphemism at pro-choice as like a magic trick. Like pro-choice means killing a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to keep you from thinking of killing baby, they have to say pro-choice, choice, choice, choice. God is about choice, and
Okay.
then they just keep saying that, and then they would from there they would say, oh, God is about your choice. He respects women's rights. He's for the woman. He's about he cares about the health of the woman, and you're such a misogynist to think that you can tell a woman what to do and so on, and then they distract the conversation and lead to other things where God empowered women. Somehow that's connected to pro-choice as far as having a being pro towards abortion. But that's how I started realizing, okay, wait, these guys are just using God as an association for their evil. And you can see it in other things, like, for example, where the whole controversy about the children locked in or in cages on the borders. People would say, oh, he would let everyone in his borders and so on. I'm like, what do you think hell is like? What are you talking about?
I'm gonna use that one actually. Let all the demons come in, man. It's everybody's. Let him come in. Let him come in.
Yeah,
Okay.
It is what it is. Like we have. I don't want to get too technical in the Bible, but in the book of Revelation, chapter 20, there's a city, called the New Jerusalem that comes down from God out of heaven, and there's like walls out around the city, and people can't come in. They would try to attack the city to come in, but God is not letting them in. And there's other stories where Jesus says, I don't even know you, like get away from me. So yeah, Jesus does reject people, and there are citizens, and then there's those who are he would have to call them I guess non-citizens, and they were welcomed, but they have to be welcomed in a certain way. They have to come through.
You mean legally?
Well,
They have to come in legally.
Well, legally through Christ. He has to forgive you. He has to take you through the process of being changed, being born again, and then you enter into the kingdom of God. Because no man can enter into the kingdom of God unless he's born again. Now, see, that's the process. What they're trying to do, at least as far as politics, they're trying to get rid of process and just say, well, no, we could just come in, and God would support just coming in, because it is what it is. Like, God is not a God of order. And so it's just crazy, because to me it's important for me as a theologian, because what you think is right is what you think is God. In other words, because you think God is righteous, you think God would do the right thing. And if you think the right thing is this, then you think this is what God would do in this situation. So, when people say this is the right thing, then I understand, okay, you think this is God, and you would probably use God as a justifier for, this or that reason. But, I've noticed people, they use the Bible as, to justify. They try to justify their ideals by twisting the Bible, of course. And that just gets that gets at me.
Yeah.
That gets at me.
But do you think, though, just because, just to be fair too, it's something that's been written a long time ago, it's been gone through many translations and interpolations, and that a lot of stuff could be lost in translation, or just, people just in general, they also project their own life experiences. Basically, that's just what you said, though, right? Onto what they think it should mean.
Well, that's a possibility, but that question is resolved in the fact that we have like thousands of manuscripts. They say about like 5,200 manuscripts that can, we could piece together, and many of the manuscripts are just still whole. That says, word for word, or at least idea to idea, what we have today. So, I mean, and we're talking like within the 100 years that the stories happened. So even if, we just said, well, someone just started putting graffiti in the Bible and they changed the statements and, they changed everything, we can still look back and see if it's changed or not. And if it's not according to the original, then we just toss it out. So what we found is what we have today is still, they're pretty much, we're pretty much accurate with what we had, like about like at least 40 years after Jesus.
How do you know that?
Well, like basically, as far as the manuscripts that we found, the manuscripts were found in like things that date back around that time, like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
That was just discovered.
But do you think that they have everything that was in there? Do you think that they may have? Because this is the thing too I've learned about trust and power and how we, give our trust away to people. Most human beings aren't there to see, when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's possible that maybe some people could have taken some stuff out and only showed the public what they wanted the public to see.
Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls are just the Old Testament, and they do have the Book of Enoch, but yeah, it just contains the Old Testament.
Could you read it? Could we read it?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can actually see it. It's in a museum and so on.
I know, but can you read it? Could you stand there and read it and go through it if you wanted to?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I don't know exactly where it is now, which museum, and I have to type it up. And
okay. Yeah, because it's been touring, right?
Yeah,
I think it's been touring.
Yes.
I don't know. I believe a lot of that stuff, but I also believe in that. There are people that only want human beings to know a certain amount of knowledge, and that it's possible when they find stuff like that too. They can, I'm gonna take this page out. Oh, I'm going to take this page out. Maybe even I'm going to rewrite something here and there, There are people that professionally can do that can professionally, fake, forge and stuff. I don't know. I'm scared. I mean, I believe it. It's not like I don't believe it, but I also keep an open mind and remain skeptical to a certain degree that anything ancient that, we rely on can be manipulated. Basically, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I just wanted to.
No.
You know what I mean?
I love when it comes to theological debates. That's something I love that far more than political debates. But
because that's your area, that's your groove. I can't really debate that much with you on that. But I'm just saying those are questions that I have for you. So since you're a theologian, theology is a study of religion, or just like God, or just Jesus, and what is it?
Well, the word itself just means the study of God. Mm-hmm. So it could be a study of God in different religions and so on. But yeah, it just means the study of God. So not exactly the study of which God, just the study of God.
So do you look at other religions as well? You were saying you're an Adventist?
Yeah.
7-day Adventist?
Yes, I'm 7-day Adventist.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I do look at other religions, not as deep as mine, but I browse through some here and there and compare the ideas. But besides that, I stay focused on my ideals and the understanding of the Bible, at least as.
Do you plan to? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up. Do you plan to look at other religions and on a deeper level and compare them? Because I find it fascinating, just little parts in here and there that I've delved into. You probably definitely know more than I do about that stuff, but there are similarities within religions and stuff. So, right?
Well, yeah, it makes sense that we would have. It makes sense, at least from my worldview, that we would have similar understanding of life and God and so on. If we came from the same family, if we came from Adam and Eve and we branched out, then of course at one point we were sitting at the same table talking, and then of course as families do, they separate, eventually have their own lives. They end up having their own thoughts and ideas, disagreements. And someone says, I don't like going to your church. I don't like going to your hut. I go to another hut and talk about God the way I like. You worship trees and I worship. I like to see God as a fish. And things can just easily, of course, fragment, but yet you can still have some of this, similar properties of ideas. So
values. Yeah.
So
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you say? Can I ask you some tough questions on that now, since you're up it? All right. What do you say about Black people that worship that are Christians when a strong argument is made that with slavery and coming across the white man, it was something that was forced upon us, and it wasn't our original religion, and that basically it's a white man's religion. So why do people cling so steadfast to Christianity?
Well, one thing, it didn't originate from the slave owners. Of course, they got it from somewhere. And, Ethiopia had Christianity, 1,000 years before, like within the 100 years that, Christ, was here. So the Bible, it did not start. Black people did not have the Bible when the colonizers came. We already had it in Ethiopia.
But a lot of the slaves were, I'm looking at a map, they were West African, and that's East. Ethiopia is east. It's on the eastern side of Africa. So a lot of from what I understand, didn't a lot of slaves come from the Horn, like the Western Africa? So what happened to them? Like, why didn't they why weren't they Christian?
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly why weren't they Christian or why Christianity didn't spread out to them exactly. I think the best thing I could say is, people have choices. Some people reject Christianity and others don't. So some Christianity don't always, spread out and remain in places because people make choices throughout the generation. Okay. And, I've heard at least that, many Africans, at one point knew God, but because of witch doctors and, other religions at the time, they were discouraged or told not to believe it and follow it. So then,
do you think like shaman and witch doctors and all that stuff, do you think that they're just an extension of God? Like there are different ways to express that? Because, I don't think I think that there's good and evil in all religions, pretty much. That's how I see things. So I think that there could be good witch doctors and bad witch doctors. So they're definitely, people that are Christian that are, they practice Christianity, but, they're bad. They also wield it to do bad, Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I mean, my policy or my philosophy is that God isn't stupid. He knows who's actually talking to him. And who's not talking to him. And if a person is talking to God or actually having a relationship with God is if they're having a relationship with what's good. God is good. And if they're talking to God with the best intentions, and not only that, but living life to the best of what they know is right. And then also most of us have like this inner law inside of us that tells us, look, this isn't right, If we're living as best as we could to that, then, I mean, your phone call is probably heading to, to God's, cell phone. But when it comes to different, other people with your bad intentions, even if you're Christian, evangelical, whatever, and your heart is bad and you're calling to God, you're probably not talking to God.
Well, okay. I'm being devil's advocate then. What happened to the Democrats? Because they think, generally speaking, a lot of the leftist people, they think they're doing good. They think they're... How do you tell the difference? They think they're on the side of good.
Well,
how do you separate it? I'm just making,
Well, see, I can only talk about, Democrats as an idea, not as individuals. Because then it, of course, like when you compare, Republicans versus Democrats on the spiritual, plane for individuals, then like you're comparing hypocrites versus, non-hypocrites. The one hypocrite is the person who knows better but does not do better. And then the other one, he knows better, but he never claimed that he was going to do better. So, they're kind of, they both have their pros and cons.
One is amoral, one is immoral, right? Like
Yes.
amoral is like with not knowing right from wrong, and then immoral is knowing right from wrong and doing wrong anyway. Right?
Yeah. So, when I look at, the parties as far as people per se, I'm looking at people I'm looking at both sinners. It's just that one has to sin differently. Republicans have to sin differently because they know better, so they have to hide their deeds. The Democrats, they're proud of their things. They have to flaunt it. So that's the difference. And I mean, sincerity and your love for God and the choice to do right. I think it's harder a little bit. It may be a little harder to be, I guess, a Christian when you have bad philosophy. So that's one thing I would like discourage people from, like, as far as being in the Democratic Party. When you're in a house with bad philosophy, you're gonna, of course, have a bad vision of God and understanding of how you should live. So, yeah.
What else was I going to ask you? Do you think we're in end times now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, no, don't say that. Why? Okay, okay, I'll put it this way. Do you think that, like, we're in end times in the fact where, like, everything's going to be wiped out, the whole world's going to be done, or we're in end times of the previous enslavement we have been, and the world's coming, like, it's going to be a revolution where it's going to be like a rebirth of the earth? And
well, because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, I think my perspective is interesting. As Adventists, we believe that the world is doomed to end. Like, just Jesus is going to come, scorch the earth, take the people that he loves to heaven. I mean, he loves everyone, but the people that actually keep his commandments and were forgiven, they go up to heaven. Those who decided not to believe in him, they die and they wait for judgment 1,000 years later.
1,000 years later? That's a lot.
No, well, when you're dead, you can't perceive time. You don't exist.
So what if it's like more than 1,000 years? It feels like more than 1,000 years.
No, if it's more than 1,000 years, in your brain, you won't have a brain. You'll be dead. When you don't exist as a conscious thinking person, like, it's not going to feel like 1,000 years. You're just going to wake up and you're like, whoa, what just happened? Someone's going to tell you 1,000 years just passed, and it's going to feel like a second because, as far as what we believe, we don't believe that you are this ghost, that floats around, looking at your kid, use the bathroom. You're asleep. You're like pretty much like non-existent until God puts you back together like Legos. Then you begin to think, and it's like waking up where you had a long day of work,
like in the Matrix. What do you mean? What part? When he wakes up and he goes to it, he's in that goop and it's all nasty, like that kind of, sort of.
Yeah, without the goop.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't know. I'm just trying to put a picture.
Yeah. So I guess you get shot, and next everything just starts coming back, and you're like wake up 1,000 years later. But so anyway, but before that, we believe that the world is going to end through the Protestant churches, Christianity, the right, and the Catholic Church are going to impose on the world, or at least the United States, something called the National Sunday Law, where they try to reflect a theocracy, the things that we had in medieval times, because they see that the plagues that are happening on the earth is happening because God is angry, and those who are not actually in step with them, they are causing these issues. So to actually stop that, we all need to have a revival for Sunday, rest on Sunday. And basically it's Constantine, it's like a Constantine #2 type of thing, where Constantine, who was an emperor of Rome, all throughout his time, or before his time, like from around the birth of Christianity, Nero and so on, Rome has been persecuting Christians. But then Constantine, he became Christian, who was an emperor, and then he changed the politics. And then he was very sympathetic towards the Christians, and he tried to unite Rome. And then he gave Christians political power. Then eventually it became like the popes of Rome, or the fathers in the land, which is made up as the Catholic Church, which means the universal church. And yeah, he enforced something called a Sunday law, where if anyone was working on Sunday, they would be persecuted, because they were not supposed to be the Christians there. That time they were all keeping Saturday, a lot of them, half of them, and then some keeping Saturday and Sunday, but they wanted to look different from the Jews. The Romans hated the Jews, and they also hated Christians. But if you're going to get slapped in the face and thrown into a Colosseum, you don't want to be confused with a Jew. So, so they also worshipped on Sunday to actually show that they're different. But to actually make themselves completely different, they said, you know what, let's not keep Sabbath as the Jews. Let's just keep Sunday in reference towards Sunday to the resurrection. Then on top of that, there were a lot of sun worshipers, which hence the term Sunday. They used to worship, the sun on Sunday. So it made sense to unite the pagans with the Christians on that day. And hence that's why, you see a lot of kind of statues and imagery, idolatry in the Catholic Church, because they merge the pagan practices with Christianity. And they said, you know what, we don't have to break all this art. Let's just use it for the gospel or whatever. So I said that to say that is going to happen again, because history likes to repeat itself. And basically, what I'm seeing right now, the left right now, they've become so horrible, so hideous, that we're like, whoa, we don't want this. Like, I want to go back to the Christian, like the Christian stability was far better. I mean, yes, they were very judgmental. We didn't like what the Catholics did, and throughout the centuries, we came from Europe and we became very secular because of the abuse that they caused. But I don't know, what you guys are doing is kind of worse. Like, the direction that they're going is worse than how we perceive what Christians would do in their worst day. So, yeah, that's how we see the end of the world. And I feel like this is the opportunity for that Christian strength. Because really things are divided between the left and the right. The right is more Christian based, or you have Christian leaders there, and the left has atheists. And then on their religious side, there's Islam, and they're like coming together to fight again. The left is going to lose, and the right is going to win and have its power. And the thing is, once you have too much power,
you become corrupt.
You get corrupt. The weight of corruption, or the weight of power, just sometimes bring us down. And if we're not careful, then we can end up just like, or I
the
think
left.
we will.
Yeah.
We end up just like the left, because I see it all the time when I'm debating certain Christians. The mentality, the sensitive, like, just the sensitive attitude towards hearing a person's point of view. I see it in a lot of Christians. Yeah. But yeah, you have to be.
Well, careful. I mean, we're human. That's what it comes down to, right? And I always say, like, I kind of look at the left and the right as the yin and yang, and the left is yin and right is yang. But we we need them both in balance to be able to be whole. But the left is out of balance. The yin is out of balance, and we need to bring it back into balance, because, you know, like the white can take over too, and then it's out of balance, and then we're messed up, like you said, that way, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we want to wrap it up because you said you had to go soon. So one last question: what is your vision of America that you would like to see?
Vision of America I would like to see is the America that can actually, you know, I guess take the balance of just Christian views and understanding of how we can implement it, and also having a good safety between church and state. And then also, as far as race, I talk about race a lot, but we didn't get the time to talk about it.
Uh-huh.
But when it comes to race, I believe we should get over all the things that stop us from actually achieving our goals. The victim mentality.
Yes, please, today, like yesterday, that'd be great.
Like, I feel like we need to actually round up all these bad ideas.
And burn them like books.
And shoot them, you know, like have a firing squad against it, because they hide within good ideas, and we're not identifying them enough. And because of that, they're like, it's very hard to actually get rid of this cancer because it's so spread, but we need to really suck it out. So what I said was pretty abstract. I never really thought about how would a whole United States would be. But
there you go.
That's a presidential question. So that's
yeah. Well, no, I just I think we're all trying to, you know, we are speaking out because we want our country. You know, we don't want to lose our country.
Yeah.
And what would that, if we were to win, or when we win, or whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, how is it going to look? So you gotta put that intention out there too. I believe in the power of intention, and you know, so if you think about like you know, if you're putting out that you know, negativity, and if you're not doing anything about what's going on, if you're not speaking about it, if you're in a state of pessimism all the time. Sometimes I'm pessimistic, but I always pose that question to people, because it's like, why are you doing this? What do you want to see? What kind of world do you want to live in? So.
Well, one more thing.
Okay.
I want a world where there's no more trafficking. You know.
No more traffic.
Yeah, no more trafficking.
Trafficking. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That'd be great.
I would love to.
And traffic too. No more traffic would be great too.
It's petty stuff. Well, I mean, with
trafficking,
all these podcasts and all these things that we have today, traffic doesn't bother me anymore. I can just listen to
multitask. Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of stuff. David Crowder, all these good things to listen to. So time just goes by, as I get older. But thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube as Adventist Hermes Justin Wilson.
I'll put your link in the bottom so they can find you there if they want to join. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else?
Well, I like the best. My favorite slogan is that Jesus is coming, and it's going to be fun when he comes. And yeah, just get rid of victim mentality, or victimology.
Victimology. Okay. Yeah.
Victimology, because it's destroying people at the bottom.
Oh, it's destroying everybody. It's not good for anybody. You're definitely right about that. All right, guy. Well, thanks again. All right, guys, we're done. I'll talk to you later. Peace and love, you guys. Bye-bye. Mwah. Okay, that's it. Right. Okay.